The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.
We're so pleased to have on the show the CEO of an award-winning digital business in Nashville, but also she's got an incredible new book, Becoming Girlilla. Jennie Smythe, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
You know, I read the excerpts from your book, and you and I were talking before we came in studio, and I had to have you on because, to me, once again, you deal with digital, platforms for huge artists.
Yeah.
I mean, Willie Nelson, Brooke Shields, Darius Rucker, the list goes on and on. But, doing this book had to be kind of cathartic.
I think that's a nice way to put it. I mean, it's frightening.
Right.
But cathartic also, yes. I mean, it was a very daunting task, but one that I'm super proud of myself for following through on.
Well, and going through the chapters, Jennie, to where, what struck me, and certainly as I think this book is going to be so helpful, not only to young women and women of any age, but also anybody, because the book available, this April, and also audiobook, which we're going to talk about. But it's like, to me, seeing and reading your story and your journey and about how you got here and to the pivotal moments, Jennie, that really changed your life. Like we were talking about, the Atomic Club that you and your girlfriends used to go to, but also, the last words that your father said to you. Mm-hmm. And how did that motivate you when he spoke these words to you that kind of changed your life?
I think it's a very human story that we can all relate to, of losing a parent. It's something that we all have to deal with in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
But yeah, my dad was in the hospital on his deathbed from pancreatic cancer, and it was right before my 30th birthday. And he said something in passing to me that was meant to, I don't know what it was meant to be, but it wasn't like, we weren't having deep conversations ever. Right. We were talking about the Denver Broncos, we were talking about the weather, we were talking about the market. Like, we weren't having deep philosophical conversations. Yeah. And he was in and out of lucidity, as anybody that's been through that experience understands. Mm-hmm. And out of nowhere, he just kind of asked me what I would do if I knew my life was half over. And I remember just kind of reeling back from the question because it was so out of character. Mm-hmm. And, we're just in this nondescript hospital room outside of Los Angeles. Yeah. And he actually didn't even stay awake for the answer. Like, we didn't have a long conversation. But I remember feeling extremely clear on the answer to that question,
right,
which up until that moment in my life had always been full of like excuses or reasons why I couldn't do it right now, or the 10 other things that needed to come before that. But it truly boiled down to two things. And so verbalizing that was memorializing that, but it was also like solidifying how simple my dreams really were, and it was a gigantic gift.
And speaking of which, I mean, those two things were starting your own digital business and traveling more.
Yeah.
And then, but it's so interesting to me, going back, we've all had our share of not the best jobs, including, you cleaning tanning beds and me dressing as Santa Claus. But it's like, the progression that you had, even as an intern, working for Elektra, working for Warner Brothers Music, Disney, Yahoo, all these different ones, the progression was always pushing you towards what you were going to do, which launching, Girlilla, marketing firm to where, an all-female, business that has been so successful that you launched. And once again, in doing the book and showing, you and I were talking about, with music artists, how you have to help them and guide them. But it seems like also, you've survived breast cancer. Mm-hmm. You have 2 wonderful children. You're kind of living your dream now.
Totally. But the thing is, like, you talking about that past, and I think this is really important for young people that are coming up in the world. We put so much pressure on them, like, hey, you have to know what you're gonna be, like, you need to know what your major is, you need to know, what are you gonna do when you grow up?
Right.
The thing is that when I was in college, unsuccessfully, this didn't exist. So the idea that I had no idea what was even possible is amazing.
Yeah.
And my only thought, and I was laser focused, is that I wanted to work at a record company. So when I got the job out of the internship to just be the receptionist, that day forward in my life, that I'll never top that.
Right.
That was the pinnacle of, I got out, I said what I was going to do, I did it, and everything else has been cherries.
Yeah. But I think it's also fulfilling your destiny. I think what your book does so well, Jenni, too, is it shows through your life and through your accomplishments what other people can do.
Yeah.
And especially young women and everything that, maybe are afraid to take that leap, empowering them, as I would hope it would my own daughter, to go ahead and chase the big dreams.
Yeah, what is there to lose?
Right.
I mean, that's the ticket, right? And I mean, but even until, I laugh about this within my family, but even I'd say midway through my, career, when I started to actually get some momentum and whatnot, I mean, I still got questions about when I was going to go back to school and get a real job. And these questions were coming from people who had jobs that they hated.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Right.
They didn't set out to do any of that. And so it was challenging, to articulate what I was a part of when the entire world was just sort of coming online.
Right.
And so it's only now, 30 years later, where everybody's living their life online.
Yeah.
And so that, hence, the next kind of phase in my life, which is not building a business, but it's helping other people cultivate what they want from their lives.
Right.
And realizing that that's not separate from who they are online versus in person. So there's some challenges that we have, and there's chaos in the world, and historically speaking, when those two things are mixed together, I have made good decisions.
Right.
So
and great choices in music too.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong there.
Especially growing up in the MTV world, like you and I were talking, where it's it was so much fun, to where it's that's how you access new music back in that time.
Yeah.
But all of those things were leading you to where you are now, and also leading you to this book that only took you 4 years to write, and then 2 days for an audio book. And I mean, it's just so great. And I'm glad you're going to be doing book signings and everything else. And I think speaking engagements, I mean, I love your story, and I love the honesty of your story. And when you have people like Tracy Lawrence and members of Rascal Flatts and everything raving about you and your book,
Pretty
and about,
remarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great journey.
It is incredible, and I'm super blessed, and I don't take it for granted. And I truly wake up every day, ready for an adventure.
I think you're doing it. You are doing it big. Well, I want to make sure too, Jenni, for our viewers, on how to purchase the book and how to find the audio book and everything else. And certainly, like you and I were talking, you're going to be doing book signings. Where do they need to go to buy your book?
You can buy the book anywhere it's available online, or you can visit my website at gorillamarketing.com or becominggirilla.com.
Becoming Girilla, my journey to unleashing good in real life, online, and in others. Jennie Smythe, I love the book. And it's so nice to have you in studio and be able to talk about this.
Thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Get your own copy and check out the audiobook too.
The Rocket Review is sponsored by Why Not Saloon.